Hiya Captains, Catogenesis here, with another guide to Starfield, this time going over each of the 10 issues of the Grunt magazines that you can collect throughout the game. Rather than several different effects or a bunch of different recipes, the Grunt magazines have a single cumulative effect, each issue granting you a bonus of 5% more critical damage to your ballistic weaponry, with a maximum bonus of 50% once you've collected 10 of them. Since how these collectibles work has been the weirdest it has ever been in a Bethesda game, I'll be showing 5 of these magazines in the order of appearance because they'll be in set locations, and then the second half will be the other 5 magazines in the set that are in procedural points of interest, with some tips and tricks to up your chances of finding them too. So let's go get those Grunt magazines, shall we? The first we're going to look for is Grunt Issue number 3. This one is in the outskirts of the Wagner farm on Montara Luna, which is Montara's moon in the Cheyenne system, Aquila City's home system. The quest deputized for the Freestar Rangers will take you here eventually. However, if you know where to look, you don't have to activate this quest to find the magazine itself, as the Wagner farm is a landing point regardless of your progress, and if you head through the canyons directly east of the Wagner farm, take the second left when the path splits through a short rocky tunnel, and you'll end up at this camp with some makeshift tents and a cart in between them where Grunt Issue 03 should be sitting. Also, before you leave, check the Wagner farmhouse if you want an issue of Solomon's Adventures as well. The second magazine we're going to find is Grunt Issue 01, and this magazine is found at the Red Mile, the end of it, on Porima 3 in the Porima system. There is technically a quest attached to this, and if you are doing quests for the Freestar Rangers already, you will eventually come here. However, the magazine can disappear if you've been here before and the body it was on despawns. So let's go through the process. Speak to May when you get to the Red Mile, however you do, to initiate a run of said Red Mile. If this is your first run through, you will see a lot of dead runners along the way. This is a very important indicator that the body you're looking for is still present. So once you make it to the blatant beacon button at the middle of this crater, if the magazine is here, you should see a body right next to the button itself. And on this body, if it's here, should be Grunt Issue 01. If it is a worst case and you missed the magazine the first time, there is always New Game Plus. Before leaving, you may find another magazine in the upstairs rooms of the Red Mile building. The third of the Grunt magazines we're going to go for is Grunt Issue number 2. This magazine is in Neon, inside the Sioka Syndicate hideout, inside Frankie's Grab and Go, inside Neon's Ebside, on Voli Alpha in the Voli system. Now to try to zoom back into this location, Ebside consists of the outer walkways of the Neon platform. Specifically, the northwest side is where you'll find Frankie's Grab and Go, the front of the Sioka Syndicate hideout. The Ryujin Industries quest Guilty Parties will lead you here and grant you access to this hideout, but you can bypass the quest part entirely by simply pickpocketing the key off of Frankie Moore, the lady who works the storefront. You can then take that key and head into the back room and take the secret door that is shaped like a fridge. As soon as you get inside the Syndicate hideout, the square table on the right side of this lobby should have the Grunt magazine you're looking for just on top of it. I will say the rest of this area is worth exploring too, and you'll find another magazine from a different set upstairs in the living quarters. The fourth Grunt magazine we're going for is Issue 04. Convenient. And this one is in the Crimson Fleet HQ known as the Key, the station orbiting Suvorov in the Krix system. The most time-consuming part about getting this magazine is simply getting yourself introduced to the Crimson Fleet that doesn't involve violence, and that's simply by getting arrested in a UC settlement of some kind, which will lead you into contacting the Crimson Fleet one way or another. Jump through the hoops to prove yourself to Neva, where you can then find Grunt Issue 04 inside the last Nova bar, not far from where Bog is serving drinks, at the corner booth next to the ping pong table. You'll find another magazine here near the shooting range. The fifth of the Grunt magazines we're going for is Grunt Issue 08, and this one is found in the retrofitted star station that is orbiting Piazzi 6A in the Piazzi system. This is the system that is in the upper left corner of the star map, not far from the Sol and Nerion systems. By not far, I mean relative to other star systems, you get it. So to get the retrofitted star station to appear, you need to be a fair amount into the quest Failure to Communicate, which should trigger just by traveling to the Piazzi system, or just stumbled into by traveling traveling to some other system. The short version of this quest is a man named Alban Lopez contacts you who wants help dealing with some spacers but needs to reestablish contact with the other colonists in the area, reaching its climax at the retrofitted star station that won't appear at Piazzi 6A until you reach that point of the quest. So follow the objectives to that point. Once you're inside the station and threats have been neutralized, from the airlock you can take the fairly linear path off to the right, up a set of stairs to the elevator here. Then after using the elevator, you can take the following corridor to the next set of stairs that are pretty much straight ahead, and the next door on your right will take you to a small command room with a nav table in the center, and the Grunt magazine should be sitting right next to it, as well as a stolen safe key that should open some safes on the level below where you're standing. Before we get into the next 5 magazines, I want to go over some tips and tricks I have for the procedural points of interest in the game, because that's where the next 5 magazines are located. Firstly, these are the map icons we're going to be looking for. I've learned that just having this information is pretty helpful. Second, when you bring up the map of a solar system that has worlds on it that you haven't been to before, some of them will have 3 little dots on them. These are procedural points of interest that are pre-generated for that world, as opposed to discovering them after you land. This will save you at least a couple loading screens. Third, and the most time-consuming method that we'll probably all use at least once, is the takeoff and land method. That's simply landing on a world where you think these icons will show up, scanning all of them, if one of them matches, going and checking it out. If not, just taking off and landing again. Fourth, these magazines are in static locations within these points of interest, which means you can get duplicates of the next 5 we're going to talk about. And that also means if you found one of these points of interest previously and you're kicking yourself for not remembering, don't worry, you find another one, there will be another magazine there too. And in case you're wondering if you're doing all of this in a single playthrough, picking up duplicates of the same magazine won't rank up the effect. Unless you're New Game Plus, but we don't have time to get into that. So I hope these methods that I use to find these magazines also help you as well. Let's get into those final 5 Grunt magazines. The 6th magazine we're going to cover in the procedural points of interest section is Grunt Issue 06, and this one is found at the deserted Ecliptic Garrison point of interest. As you approach, the first thing you'll probably notice at this point of interest is the 2 tall yellow cranes, showing that this place was under construction but probably never finished being constructed, with a gutted or unfinished ship on the round landing pad here. The Grunt magazine we're looking for is in the dark, like military green hab that's here, that has 2 floors and is missing a roof. You can simply take the metal stairs up to the 2nd floor and should find Grunt Issue 06 sitting on the work table here. While I didn't test it myself but thought it worth mentioning, Bog, the bartender of the Crimson Fleet, can give you a quest eventually called Reclaiming the Past, where I believe the quest will send you to a deserted Ecliptic Garrison. I'm sure if that is the case, someone in the comments will confirm. The 7th magazine we're going to collect is Grunt Issue 05. And this one is in another garrison, but instead the deserted UC garrison. The 2 things that I think make this one stand out, and only just, is the large antenna tower on one corner, and the 2 what look like fuel silos on the other side. There are a couple of those military green habs here, but only one that seems like it's actually functional, and the 2nd floor of this functional hab is where you should find this issue of Grunt magazine, next to the terminal upstairs overlooking the rest of this decrepit base. The 8th magazine we're going to go for is Grunt Issue 07. This one is found in the procedural point of interest known as the Abandoned Cryolab, a pretty notorious point of interest in the community discussions I've seen. When you're seeking this point of interest, what you're looking for is a pool of liquid, frozen, molten, or otherwise, with 2 fairly boxy structures, with the bigger one built into the nearby hill. The magazine, fortunately, is not within the dungeon itself, but instead on the larger of the surface structures. Simply take the walkway to the front door, and Grunt Magazine Issue 07 should be just in the office to the left of the entrance on the desk in here. Magazine number 9 is Grunt Issue number 9, and this one can be found at a deserted colony war barracks. Another procedural location, of course. On your approach, a giveaway for this location might be the square wall that goes around almost the entire perimeter of this base, or maybe the antenna up the hill attached via walkway. There are a lot of structures here, but the one we're looking for is the one with the gold radar dome on top that is attached via corridor to the storage building. So if you enter the storage building and then walk the corridor into the lounge area, traveling upstairs, you should see Grunt Issue 09 on the table up here. The 10th magazine we're going for is Grunt Issue 10. Hey, we're back on track with the numbers, even though the order doesn't matter. And this last one is in the point of interest known as Forgotten Military Base. To identify this one, it is yet another military location with a big circular landing pad next to it. In fact, the landing pad may be a little bit bigger than the base itself. The orange and green habs that are labeled Office 01 and Office 02. If you go through Office 01 up to Office 02, outside, and then take the metal stairs to the roof, Grunt Issue 10 should be on the work table straight ahead. Now that you should have all 10 issues of Grunt magazine, maybe -1 if you missed the Red Mile one, is there one that you just walked by previously? And if you're also interested in finding other magazines, I've done quite a few other magazines guides and intend on doing all of them, which you can find here, as well as some tips and tricks I wish I knew. If you found this useful, entertaining, or both, please show that however you see fit. Among the ways you can is by joining the awesome patrons on screen now, including Wasteland Legends, Sven, and Rose. Thanks so very much for watching. I'm Kato Genesis, and I hope to see you among the stars.